Assalamu alaikum all, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Revival, Reflection and Ramadan webinar series. This is a series brought to you by the Ramadan 10 Project, and the purpose of these webinars is to help us best prepare for the upcoming month of Ramadan, so that not only can we make the most of the blessed month, but also continue our good deeds and habits after the month of Ramadan. Before we go on to talking about today's topics, I just want to first of all take the opportunity to thank you all for joining us in our previous webinars. Thank you for your engagements with us and with our previous guests, whether that be via Zoom or via our social media channels. I also want to say a big thank you to you all for those of you who have signed up to our My Open Iftar packs and are helping us during these unprecedented times to keep the Ramadan spirit alive. For those of you who have signed up for a physical pack, you should have received one by now. If not, there'll be one arriving on your doorsteps in the next week. For those of you who haven't signed up to a physical pack, not to worry, you can still sign up for an e-pack and that can be sent to you directly. With that being said, we are in unprecedented times and there is a bigger need now more than ever for individuals to empower themselves and their communities to come closer together. And this will be the key theme of today's webinar. We will be discussing the community capacity and how we can create impactful change. Before I introduce our, before I go on to the questions, sorry, I just want to introduce our guest speaker today. It gives me great privilege and an honor to introduce Dr. Hany El Banna, who is the president of the Humanitarian Forum and the co-founder of Islamic Relief. Since leaving Islamic Relief in 2008, Dr. Hani has founded the Muslim Charities Forum and the Humanitarian Forum. Both organizations seek to foster partnerships and closer cooperation among the humanitarian and charitable organizations from Muslim countries and their Western counterparts. He is also the chairman of Zakat House, a social enterprise helping new and growing charities. Dr. Hani, how are you doing? Are you well?
Oh, fine, thank you. Thank you. How is London?
London is fine for me. I mean, alhamdulillah, I'm quite fortunate where I'm safe, I'm well, I have my health. It's like I said, unprecedented times. I've never seen London so quiet. I'm also fortunate where I'm still working, and every now and again I do have to go to the office. And a few times I've had to have a stroll through Hyde Park at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's a very eerie place. It's not how it used to be, how it was 3 or 4 months ago. How are you? How's life in Birmingham?
Well, quiet, very quiet. Roads are clear, empty, and so taking rest at home, no travel, but doing something from home most of the time.
That's good to hear. Alhamdulillah, that's good to hear. I want to, obviously we are in unprecedented times, and with Ramadan coming and with this pandemic, a lot of people have said that, in our previous webinars, that this pandemic, we should, as Muslims, be used to, isolation and self-control, because we fasted previous months and previous years, and that gives us self-control. And also a lot of people have previously said that we should use this pandemic to get into the habit of, better preparing ourselves for Ramadan and this upcoming month. So, your forte is working in the charity sector, it is social action. My question to you is, with Ramadan coming up and with the current unprecedented situation we're in right now, how as individuals and communities can we best put ourselves to use, and what action should we take to make sure that all the social action, all the social justice, all the community work we do has a lasting impact, and also, more importantly, impacts those who need it the most?
Do we need to wait for Ramadan to have a social impact on our community? No. As we have been created human beings as custodian for the universe, Allah created us to look after the universe, to construct the universe and make the life in the universe habitable for everyone. So this is our mission, whether we are Muslims or non-Muslim, as human beings, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was explaining to the angels. Actually, the role of Adam, and when they started to argue with him about his role. Even as we know that Satan refused to make sujood to Adam. This actually Adam alayhi salam at that time was the icon for humanity, and we are all the sons and daughters of Adam, whether we are Muslims or non-Muslims. So we have a role. Nothing to do for Ramadan. Unfortunately, people accelerate or escalate their role in Ramadan because of the reward. The calculation time, a prayer, sunnah becomes a fard becomes more reward and charity and. So what about the 11 months outside Ramadan? Muslims should not behave like this. Most of the greatest conquest of Islam in the good old days were during the month of Ramadan. And people were fasting, and people were thirsty, and people were making jihad and giving their life up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of Allah. Why we actually only talk about Ramadan? Ramadan, of course, is the month of blessing, the month of the Quran revealed, the month of forgiveness, and the month of the night of power, and all these sort of things. But my message is to my young sisters and brothers and my colleague and everybody is we should not only be waiting for Ramadan to act and make community action. Actually, in the good old days, Brother Ahmad, during Ramadan, of course, we escalated our action in Ramadan. But before Ramadan, people are dying. The corona virus of the pandemic started maybe in September or October last year and started to be known in December. So why should we wait from December, January, February, March, April, 5 months to act? Are we going to wait for Ramadan to act? Or is our duty, actually, which Allah has given it to us long time ago, is that you are the custodian of the universe. You don't spoil the universe. You don't pollute the climate. You don't change, you don't do something bad to change the climate and all these sort of things. You bring justice, you bring social cohesion, and you bring this bonding between different sectors of the community as well as different individuals and culture of the community. And this is actually my role. Try to remind my brothers and sisters, make Ramadan to be every day, every second, every hour, and every month. To be more blessing by Allah in Ramadan, but we should act 24/7 for the whole year.
Thank you for that, Dr. Hani. As you've said there, and I mean, I've touched on it as well, that, you know, for us, this webinar series is in the build-up to Ramadan. It's how we can get the blessings out of Ramadan. And, you know, as you've rightly pointed out, that we should act in the 11 months outside of Ramadan the same like we should during Ramadan. In terms of what you've just said there, putting that into practice, if, for example, someone wanted to give zakat or give charity or go out and help the community and be that bridge to sort of bring communities together, regardless of whether it's a pandemic or whether it's Ramadan, how, in your opinion, is it best to do that? From the knowledge you've gained from, you know, from your days from co-founding Islamic Relief to everything, to all the good work you're doing now, what advice would you give to people?
Well, people should give every day, every hour, every month. There's no end. There's no special time for giving. That's why I'm a little bit concerned about the people who only wait to give their zakah and sadaqah in Ramadan. Why? Or to give during Muharram. Why? People are dying. See, as I mentioned in one of the interviews, there's an individual dying every second from hunger. People are hungry. More than 800 and maybe 20-something million are suffering from hunger. 6 million children are dying every year from hunger, being hungry. And 36 million individuals like myself dying every year. So why should I wait for Ramadan? Why should I wait for Muharram? Why should I wait for Ashura? Why? This mentality and the mindset, because I'm going to get more reward. No, people are dying in front of me. The charitable activity is a part and parcel of the life of the Muslim. Prophet ﷺ was described by his wife, Khadija, Bibi Khadija radiallahu anha, but he is a social worker. When the Quran was revealed on him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they came to her, yani, trembling in fear because of the incident, and she told them, Allah will never let you down. You know why? Because you are very good to your neighbors, you are very good to your family, you are helping the needy, you are empowering the people, and you are taking the people by hand. Social worker and humanitarian worker and relief worker was the Prophet ﷺ. He was not doing it when he became a prophet. He was not doing it in Ramadan. He was not doing it in Sha'ban. He was doing 24 hours for the whole year. So my appeal for all my brothers and sisters, actually donate whenever you can, wherever you can. Don't only wait for Ramadan. Don't only wait for Ramadan. Don't only wait for Ramadan.
Okay, thank you for that. With you just mentioned there, people do wait till Ramadan or Muharram to give sadaqah or to give zakat or to give charity or to volunteer or even give their time. Why is it that people, or why is it that we have this mentality of, you know, only donating in Ramadan? And more importantly, how do we get out of that mentality, or how do you get the masses to get out of that mentality? Because I'm sure there'll be individuals out there who do work, you know, 365 days a year, who will volunteer, who will give sadaqah, who will be, you know, be good to their neighbors. You know, people that will do that 365 years, but, well, 365 days per year. But as you mentioned, a lot of people, you know, will stay till Ramadan, and as well as, you know, the individual sort of donating, a lot of, you know, charities we see today always wait till Ramadan, and they'll also try and sort of, you know, act on that and try and commercialize that aspect. So how do we get people, or the masses, to be like how they are during Ramadan all year round, and how do we change that mentality?
Okay. This is the sentimentalism to Ramadan. As I mentioned earlier on, Ramadan is the month of blessing, the month of forgiveness, the month of mercy, and the month of being actually protected from hellfire. Okay, the month of reward. All of this in Ramadan. This has been, and they got the Laylatul Qadr, which is the night of power, which is equivalent in, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, to 83 years or 1,000 nights, something like that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Alf shahr. Okay, Alf shahr. No. 1,000 months. 1,000 months. Okay, the night of power. So this is one side of the coin, because I want to get the reward, because it multiplies, the multiplicity factor. If you talk about Khwarizmi or whatever, Al-Jabra, the multiplication of my reward happened in Ramadan. The multiplication of my reward will happen in the night of power. Okay, because I want to benefit myself as well. People going to Mecca and Medina to pray, not because they want to be with Allah in the house of Allah in Mecca, but because they are calculating actually the reward of the prayer in Mecca, the reward of the prayer in Medina, the reward of the prayer in Jerusalem, in Al-Quds. Okay, not because they want to meet to visit the Prophet ﷺ, not to want to suffer and spend all this for the sake of Allah. Actually, when we look at it from one side, become one-sided in our actually approach to the community, we value our reward more than valuing the benefit of the people who are going to be helped by us. Okay. And this is very serious at the mind, the mindset of the people. 40% of the money of charity come in Ramadan. Why? And the 60% in 11 months. And I give 5% every month to the charity, where people dying every day by the second, and I wait for Ramadan to benefit myself. This is wrong. Wrong on the philosophy of thinking, wrong on our theological understanding, wrong in our aqidah, and wrong in our morality as well. I only no. Let us not only Ramadan, the night of the 27th of Ramadan. More blessing, more blessing. How do you know? How do you know that actually you get all this blessing in Ramadan when I need it because I'm dying, when I need it because I'm thirsty and hungry and I'm sick, and you give me the money now, could be more multiplication of reward to me than Ramadan when I'm not sick or I become dead. What benefit will I have when you give your money in Ramadan and the people are dying in Shawwal and dying in Rajab and dying in the Qa'dah and. Young people, this is my appeal to the young people like you, Brother Ahmad. They have to understand that the one who multiplies the reward is Allah, not me. It's the month. It's not the month. It is Allah looking at my intention and looking at the need and looking at our drive to stretch our hand and to reach the most affected people in the community or anywhere else. Do I have to wait to help the Yemeni who are actually stranded there by the war, or the Syrians who got millions till Ramadan comes? What kind of mindset we are having nowadays? Women and children are living inside or underneath broken, destroyed or demolished houses. No blankets, no tents, no food, no water, no medicine. And you tell me, wait till Ramadan to get the money to the Syrian, or to get the money to the Rohingya people, or to get the money to the Yemeni, or to get them everywhere? No. There are people dying every day, every second, by the second. We need you and me to try to change the mindset of the donors. Donate every day and let the reward to be in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For this, I'll tell you how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very merciful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgiven a prostitute from the children of Israel, a prostitute, when she saw a panting dog, thirsty, and she took her shoes and she went to the well and gave him a drink of water. Allah forgiven her. And she was what? She was a prostitute. So don't underestimate what Allah can do for you at the time when the people need you to pay your zakah and charity, because they need it now, not in Ramadan. We are living in Europe and America and in the West. We should not behave with this culture.
Thank you for that. I just want to add to that, just because one of the previous webinars we did, we had a world-renowned Islamic economist, Dr. Mehmet, on the webinar, and one of the things he said was that people, he was talking about the Islamic economy, and we've sort of had quite a good discussion on that. But one of the things he said was that people don't do things for the sake of Allah anymore, similar to what you just said. And one thing I always go back to is I was chatting to a friend last Ramadan, and he was due to give a khutbah at Jummah, and the audience, his target audience, was the people working in the city, so people working in the finance sector. And obviously they were talking about, everyone in that sort of sector uses phrases like hedge funding and, managing portfolios, etc. And one of the ways he said he would tell people to essentially do what you have just told us, or told myself and the viewers to do, is to almost look at your deeds as like your wealth. And he said that if you were a hedge fund manager, or if you were, an investor, you wouldn't just hedge all of your wealth on one thing. And likewise, we shouldn't, hedge, what our fate is in the Akhirah on just that one night, whether it be Laylatul Qadr or what 1 month. We should be doing this daily, similar to what you've just said, so that, we are accumulating our deeds throughout the year, and not just during Ramadan, but even going back with what I've just said about accumulating. We shouldn't even be thinking about that. It should be whatever we do, we should be doing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the way. So that was just one story I just wanted to share with people, in terms of sometimes if you just make it relatable. I think that was just my way of just sharing with others of how a friend of mine made that relatable to his audience.
This is actually been explained in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, who said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قال the most beloved deed before Allah is the continuous, even if it's little, £5 every day for a year. This will give me, as a charitable worker, as a community worker and social worker, the ability to make a budget. I know that every month I have £10,000, £5,000, £20,000. So my budget every year is 1 million or 500,000. So I can plan actually to support and finance this. And another hadith by the Prophet who said, خير الصدقة, the best of charity is the effort of the one who is in need in secrecy to the one who needs it most. See how it is. Prophet is encouraging even the people who are low income to give anything to the people who needs it most. And this is what we call it ithar. When actually you have something for yourself, but you deserve it, but you decide not to eat or drink and give it to your next door neighbor. Whether this neighbor is a Muslim or non-Muslim. And this is where the beauty of Islam is, Brother Ahmad. Quite often in sadaqah especially, there is no difference between giving to Muslim and non-Muslim. I know that zakah, 6 categories or 7 categories are actually for the Muslim, and one of them is for the non-Muslim. المؤلفة قلوبهم. But actually in sadaqah, there is no distinction between Muslim and non-Muslim. Even in orphan sponsorship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never said Muslim. In widows, Allah never said Muslim. And miskin and yatim and faqir and Allah make it so broad, so wide to include everything, every individual in the society.
Thank you for that. Again, I think what you've just said there sort of resonates, and it's also a reminder for myself as well as all those viewing today. We've talked a lot about sort of the intention and the mentality of people giving during Ramadan, and how we've also mentioned that we should be doing that year round. When it comes to the time of giving, whether it be in the month of Ramadan, whether it be outside of the month of Ramadan, whether it be £5, whether it be £10, what's the best way for an individual, a Muslim, to go and donate that money? And how should that money be spent? Is it a case of, should they be, giving it to an online charity so they can then do all the work? Or should they be doing it something local to their community where they can physically see, where that money getting spent and that money being, used, and they can see that? Or, how's your answer to that question?
I think we should give locally, regionally, and internationally. Because nowadays on us there's a duty. There's a duty on us as Muslims to give to the homeless, to give to the elderly, to give to even to the climate change in this country as well, and to even to the guide dog for the blind people. You see, all these things are part of our society. You can see all those young men and women in the middle of the road everywhere in UK. They need help, they need food, they need everything. Give them. You can divide your money proportionately because we need to build local organization here in UK. Charity starts at home. This is one thing. Plus, there's a greater need, maybe in Pakistan, in India, in Bangladesh, maybe in Uyghur, maybe in Yemen, maybe in Myanmar, maybe in Palestine, in Gaza, all this, we have to give. For me, I have to divide my cake between the local community and the community outside my country to help them. Also to give to my relatives. So, wallahi, with the good intention of you, no matter how little the donation is, the reward and the blessing of that money when it reaches individual will be more sufficient than you think. ولا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا. Don't ever underestimate any act of goodness, or any amount of money. رب درهم سبق 1000 dirham. Maybe 1 dirham or 1 pound or 1 pence or 5 pence or 10 pence may be ahead of 1,000 pounds because of your intention, because of your drive, because of your love to the act of charity and to the poor people. And this is what actually I'm trying to say. Try to look at the needs locally, which they deserve actually to be supported, and try to look at your family members in a poor country, as well as countries like Syria or Libya, so not Libya, Syria or Yemen or Gaza or Palestine or. And you decide, because everybody is in need. Also, inside this, there's money for water, there's money for agriculture, there's money for sponsorship of orphans and widows, there's money for actually building schools, for education, there's money for empowering young people. All this, there's many projects now, many projects, because the charitable field, alhamdulillah, and a lot of our organization, like in this country, I'm not going to be favoring anyone, all of them, I trust all of them, are doing incredible work in different parts of the world for different activities, but want to move to a higher place, because the competition here is very what do you call it, competitive, to be competing with actually the international Muslim organization are actually doing far more better than all our Muslim charities. And I wish that we can actually go maybe to talk about what is the problems that are facing the Muslim charities in the country or anywhere else. Yes.
Thank you for that. I've got a couple of more questions. Just, I mean, personally from me, just obviously listening to what you've been saying and obviously listening to others about the charity sector in general. A lot of people, and this is not me personally, because I kind of understand how charities do work, but a lot of people have, you know, are quite reluctant to, if they see like a big international charity, to donate to that international charity, because they're always worried that their funds might not go to what is being advertised for. So, for example, if a charity, you know, says that, you know, if you donate £50, this could feed a family of 4 for a month in, you know, whichever part of the world needs it. But then a lot of people will be put off by that because, you know, they're worried that that money might get instead spent on admin fees or might get used somewhere else. What message do you have to those people?
First of all, there is no food cooked without fire. Okay? And even when you buy your own meal, your wife at home is cooking for you. This is admin. Electricity, gas, cleaning, the time of your wife at home. Ask those people to wake up. Wake up, people. There's nothing with no expenses. And my message today, whoever tell you 0% admin, he or she is liars. And this is my statement. Liars. If you have income from different resources to support your admin, declare it. But what I'm telling to the donor, there is no work, no charity without admin. And the administration could go from 5% sometimes to 30, 40, and 50%. You tell me why. I tell you how. In an area when you need to have an airdrop, when there's no roads, flooding or destruction, whatever it is, or war, and people are stranded in the middle of no man's land, no truck, no car, no animals, no lorry can actually get the aid material to those people. How on earth they are going to send it? By air. It might go rocket high, about 40, 50% or maybe more. And here you have to understand the mechanics and the cost of the operation, the charitable operation in a conflict zone. In a conflict zone. When you have areas in a less no conflict zone, where the transportation is good, administration goes down. But what I'm saying, Brother Ahmad, and to everybody listening and seeing me now, there's no charity without cost. And if you are going to work on an international field, just take it from me as an individual who, alhamdulillah, learned from the 70s or from the 80s, from scratch. Any international organization cost on the international field from here to go 20 or 30 or 40 offices, their admin costs will not be less than 15%. Okay. And if you call yourself international and you have offices and you have staff and other, because you have to send to secure your money. Now, with this regulation of the banking industry, with this counter-extremism, counter-terrorism, and its negative impact on the banking, not only that, tell those people are actually trying to demean or actually defame the charitable sector. Tell them, we are being surrounded by banks who delays the money transfer for months, because my name is Hassan or Mahmoud or Ali or Omar, whatever it is, because my name is Islamic organization. We are under this scrutiny when we want to save people. The banking is stopping us. If the donor will start only to be negative or nagging the organization or reluctant, may Allah help him or her. But we are going to work, and we are going to work because we take the charitable activity, the material activity, as a mission, not as a job, as a mission, as a life mission, and the message to deliver, to educate our youngsters how to do proper charitable activity. But to conclude, so at the end, says there is no charitable delivery with no cost. And it goes from 5% to 15% or sometimes 20%. And if you're in a very difficult area, go to 40 or 50. And because, you know why, Brother Ahmad? We are doing this because of the sake of Allah. We're not doing it because we are trying to please you. We have to be transparent. We have to be transparent. We are living at the era of this mass communication. And we're still talking about don't pay admin for this, because this organization is so and so. And you have the right as a donor. You have the right as a donor. You have to ask me, to ask the charitable organization. Then when you are satisfied, you pay your money. If you are not satisfied, plenty of organizations in the market you can help them. Or even go to help some local organization in different countries. Does not make any difference. But help the organization that you know better than helping the organization that you don't know.
Thank you for that advice. I know we've talked about, people, again, I'll repeat that, people do have this tendency to sort of hedge all their zakat or give all their donations during the month of Ramadan, and obviously to, they do that to gain their deeds. We are now, I think, I think it would be naive of us both to say that people aren't going to do that this Ramadan, despite what we've just said. What's your advice to those, especially the youngsters, the people who have just come out of university and who are working their first job? So for some people, it might be given their first time where they'll be given a lot more zakat because they're going to be earning. What's your advice to that group of people in terms of who to give money to, or not necessarily who to give money to, but what cause to give money to? You touched on that charity begins at home, or charity starts at home. So are you now saying that, we should focus on helping out communities locally as well as internationally? How would you divide that? These are questions what have been asked to me previously, and people are curious and want to know this, so they can, I think they're very keen to see that the money they invest in a charity or donate to a charity is used wisely and has the greatest sort of benefit to the end user.
So first of all, for the youngsters who are actually locked in now in the houses and they don't have money, those youngsters can help and can become a volunteer to any charity of their like to help them on the social media. I take the example, we have an organization called Muslim Charities Forum, coordinating the work between about 17 or 20 organizations, and now they have a campaign, social media campaign. Most of their workers are volunteers at the age of 20, 21, 25. And they are doing, wallahi, they are doing a great job, talent. So those actually can become volunteers. Those young people at the time of Corona and Ramadan as well can educate others, can raise the awareness about how to distribute your wealth in Ramadan or outside Ramadan to bring great ideas. So I'm not going to say that the one who does not have a job, actually done or recently qualified or have low income, cannot do something while he or she is sitting at home. This is number one. Number two, when we look at how to divide our wealth or our zakat or our sadaqah, actually in Ramadan, outside Ramadan, actually between the local and the international, the first step is to understand the needs of the people here and the needs of the people there. Then you make istikhara or you make consultation with other people. You might say, because we are living in a country with the social welfare system, I can give 10 to 20% of my zakat and sadaqah in this country which have a good social welfare system. But countries like Somalia, like Ethiopia, like Sub-Saharan Africa, like Togo, like some parts of Afghanistan and Pakistan and India and Bangladesh, and all those are Palestine, Yemen, Eritrea. Do you remember Eritrea?
Sorry, say that again. It just cut out.
You remember Eritrea?
Yes.
You see, nobody talks about it. You know what, Brother Ahmad? There's about 400,000 people in Sudan as refugees since the 70s. And there is no funding coming to them. Living as refugees since the 70s, since the war there. So you have to know where the needs is most and divide between the local here, your family, as well as the international. Palestinian, Gaza is under siege for the last 7 years. You might decide, I'm not going to give money in here in UK or in America or in the West. I'm going to give my money to Gaza, or I'm going to give my money to Afghanistan. I'm going to give my money to any part of the world. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the reward according to your intention and the needs of the people. So every blessing will come to you from any small charity you do, but do it itself. It's clear.
That's very clear. Thank you for this, and I think it's been quite insightful, especially from hearing it from someone who's got so much experience as yourself. I've got a few questions. I hope you don't mind me asking. How did you get involved in this? How did Islamic Relief come about then? I mean, I don't want to start plugging other charities, but how did you? I mean, I appreciate that you were the co-founder, and I just want to get your story out there, because I mean, it's inspired me, and I'm sure it inspired many sort of millions around the world. So how did you come about from, have something starting so small to being essentially the biggest Islamic charity in the Western world?
So, alhamdulillah, we did not have any plan, any strategy, any funding, any big figures like superstar or big businessman. Me and my colleague Ihsan, Dr. Ihsan, I was a medical student doing my Doctor of Medicine, which is equivalent to PhD, and he was doing his Doctor of Philosophy in Chemistry. There was a famine in Africa, in Eritrea and Tigray in 1983. And we found there's no Muslim organization in the country, in the whole West at that time. And I visited Sudan. And I was told or informed about the plight of the famine in Eritrea and Tigray at that time. And there's a lot of Muslims and non-Muslims, non-Muslims and Muslims. Majority were non-Muslims. We came back with an idea. Let us do something. Let's do something. I raised about 1,500 Egyptian pounds from my family in Cairo. The first 20 pence was from a 9-year-old boy, young boy, who it was his chocolate money. Then I did khutbah in Birmingham University and Aspen University, 500 pounds from then I put all this money in the bank. And we went legging it, door to door, street to street, shop to shop, mosque to mosque, everywhere, collecting the pennies and the pounds. Collecting, even, alhamdulillah, I am very proud to say that I could be the first one who hold a donation box, donation box outside the Birmingham Central Mosque in 1986. Because you people are very gentle. You just get the donation box or donation going between the individuals praying there. But I took it aggressively on the road. And in 1 hour, after each prayer, I raised maybe 1,500 pounds. More than the mosque raising inside. Because I get used to do this when I was in Egypt, with all the beggars in front of the big mosques in this area. So this is how we started. No office, no desk, no cabinets. It is the start, the start of the no resources. But to have it clear that we want to help. Even we used to sing, I want to help the refugees in Africa. And I was singing it with the children in some of the summer camps. We want to help the children in Africa. We want to help the children in Africa. And the children used to go around with me, and we the plastic donation boxes, checking it. You can imagine that if you got 20 or 30 children with 20, 30 donation boxes, and this individual singing with them, and to disturb the camp, and they have to pay the money to keep us quiet. This is how we started. This is how we started. Actually, it was a time, I hope, that actually we're doing everything by hand. Even the printing used to have the literacy, no computer, only typewriter, and handwritten messages. And letters that you keep putting the letter next to another to make a poster. The manual mentality made you to be more genius and forward thinking and having the ability to explore the hidden world with no resources. Unfortunately, nowadays, everybody has, what is this? The telephone, the internet, and people are lax. Oh, yeah. I want him to dream. I want the young girls and the young brothers to dream about how they, with their hands, can go and make the change. That's why quite often, every year, or not every year, and every year I visit about 15 or 20 countries at least, to learn from the people who have no resources, and to learn how to find the solution, and to learn how can we bridge between the poverty-stricken local community in Africa and Asia and Latin America and others, and the affluent community here. So we started like this, but we're focusing, Brother Ahmad. If you don't focus, you lose your match. If you are a supporter of Manchester United or Liverpool or whatever it is. If I don't know the strikers in Manchester United, I used to know Rooney. This is the last I knew, but it's quite a few, isn't it? Mo Salah or whatever it is, the other people actually, if they don't focus, they will never score.
Yeah.
That's actually for you as a young man. You have the mission. You see, when I touch my heart like this, you have the vision at the back of your mind, and you focus to score. Something else we did at that time, subhanallah, when I was traveling after registering, the organization was registered in 1989, I used to look at the world map. You know this world map?
Yeah.
I dream putting circles around cities, towns, countries in Africa, in Asia, America, Canada, and Europe, to both these circles. I was seeing the dream, or we were seeing the dream. And alhamdulillah, most of these circles become true. If you want your dream to become true, you are the only one who can change it from a dream to true reality in life. So between the no office time till now, it was a long process of processing people. You know who made this movement successful? It's young people at the secondary school and the university level. Most of the work of this organization in the 80s and 90s was done by the secondary school students and the university students. We used to stay in the hall till about midnight to get the envelopes, to fold the leaflet, to put it inside the envelope, and to seal it. The envelopes either was a sponge, then they stick the what they call it, the stamp, then they stick the address, and you know what? At the end, the reward was what? Some chips and half kebab, or not. But the spirit was there. I want you with the technology to bring the spirit back.
Thank you for sharing that story. Just untouching on that, with regards to what you said there with secondary school students and university students, why is it that we do see that sort of, it's that age demographic working most in the charity sector? Is it due to the fact that they don't have jobs and, you know, they might not have a family of their own and, you know, they're using the time more sort of efficiently? Or is it due to the fact that just down to enthusiasm and passion, or is it a mixture of both?
Can you say the question again, because I didn't catch it?
So the question is, you know, you touched on, you know, how you said there about secondary school students in the 80s and the 90s, you know, working sort of day and night to obviously help the charity. Why is it?
No, not working, volunteering.
Volunteering, I should say, sorry, volunteering. Why is it that it's that demographic which volunteer the most? Is it just down to the fact that they have that enthusiasm? Is it down to like the enthusiasm of the youth? Or is it down to the fact that, you know, they don't have their own families and, you know, they're not in jobs, so they have that time to volunteer? Or is it a mixture of both?
No. It is, they want to be identified that they're doing something. You know, when you are living as a minority in a country and could be treated as not first-class citizen, those people would like to be relating themselves to a newly born establishment or something, to do something. But at that age, the 15 to 20, then the university student as well, they want to help. They have the power, they have the urge, they have the love. Not because their family is poor and other. No. Actually, we tested this in 2 or 3 occasions because this is identification of the strength of our community. What was the first one? We wanted to attract more youth. We made something called the Islamic Relief Games. We hired NAC, the National Exhibition Center, the largest in the UK. This was a day which was costing the charity £25,000. 8,000 young people came to play football, I can't remember, table tennis and others, volleyball and others. And the whole day for the family to come out to say that we are going to NAC, because there was no go area for our community at that time. Okay, so one side were empowering young people to come and play. You know how many football teams have 120 or 140 or 160 football teams to play, plus other games. You know, one time, this is a very nice story which happened, true story. We were sometimes making our office as a hub for people to sleep overnight. And 2 or 3 teams came from Bradford, and they were sleeping in one of the rooms. You know, the youngsters, keep talking. I went there at 12 o'clock, said, please, sleep. Then I went back 2 o'clock, said, please, sleep. Then switched the light off. You know what I told them? If you don't sleep and you don't pray Fajr, you will never win tomorrow. And they left. You know what happened? 5 o'clock next day, I found maybe a dozen of young people from under 16 and under 18 said, what do you mean? What do you want? we won. So who are you? Because in the dark, I could not be identify their faces. So you came and switched the light on and you threatened us. And we took your threat. We woke up in the morning and we prayed Fajr and we won under 16 and under 18. I said, God bless you. This is something which brings them to an arena called NEC. It's a motivation for themselves. So people used to come and we changed them from being just football player or volleyball player into volunteers, into some of them were working as well, still working in the organization and other. This is one thing. Other thing, actually, if you remember that when you take the community into places like London, Royal Albert Hall, never been to it. Only the affluent member amongst the community go there. But when you hire the whole thing for them, and at that time, it makes difference. And from there, we were working on the community and on the family inside the community. So the family, you know, one of the most beautiful scenes I saw at NAC, you know, as Asian, they consider me one day as an Asian and give me an award on behalf of the Asian community. I told them that I was born in Egypt, but we can make Egypt a part of Asia. And when I was there at that time, you can see the sister bringing the pot with plow and chicken and samosa and putting it on the table because it could be a little bit expensive to buy it from there. And actually, I was very happy because the mother is there, the daughter is there, the husband is there, and the brothers are there watching their son playing whatever they play. And this is once the family trusts you at that good old days, they bring everybody. And the best donation we wish to receive is the frontline donation from the unemployed, the pensioner, which is half a penny, and 5 penny. I was going around, me and my colleague as well, to collect all this. And the last, not least, activity which led us to be very close to the community during Ramadan. This is for the people now. During the Ramadan, Brother Ahmad, we never sat at our home. We never said that we are going to complete Quran from chapter to chapter. We never said that we are going to actually listen to one imam because his recitation is marvelous. We used to have something called caravan tour. Small car from the first day of Ramadan or the night of Ramadan, go from town to town, city to city, till we come back on the 28th of Ramadan, if we're in UK. Leaving your family. Leaving the comfort and being with the community. Not only in UK, but abroad. When we used to travel abroad, we used to come after Eid. So you find that your wife and your children will celebrate Eid alone. This is the spirit of the charity which we want our young people to bring it back. Want you to teach them and mentor them because our time is up. But your time is coming, Brother Ahmad, and the people with you in the office.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Dr. Hani. Quite an emotional ending there. And I think I just want to say thank you for all of the work you've done for over the years. You've inspired many at Ramadan Tent Project. I know you've inspired many millions around the world, and you've certainly inspired me again today. And you know, you've taught me that and reminded me about what we do and how it all becomes down to our intention and why we do things, and also the fact that everything we do is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I just want to thank you, and I think it's been great chatting to you today. Hope you stay safe, hope you stay well, and I just want to say thank you to all of the viewers who have been watching today. Unfortunately, time is up today, but please do join us on our social media channels. And once again, I want to say a big thank you to Dr. Hani. I really appreciated this today. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.